what you can do in terms of telling a narrative story. So we're looking for people that can help with that. Anyone that's passionate about VR filmmaking, anybody that has experience with one of the game development engines would be particularly helpful. We've got most of the animation and that side covered, with Paul being badass at Pixar, but we don't come from a game background. So anybody that has experience with that, we'd love to talk to you.
Somebody, what are the challenges you're facing specifically in trying to solve?
Well, I'm teaching myself how to use Unity and Unreal 4, so anything with that would be super helpful. Awesome, thanks.
But yeah, I think we're just interested in the medium, you know, and seeing what we can do. I mean, the sky is open for this kind of thing, so yeah, let us know if you have ideas. Yeah, what's it? Maya, Unity these days, Unreal. If you have an opinion, Unity versus Unreal, let us know.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I have an unframed question, if I may. A film is linear. It goes from beginning to end, like Taxi Driver or Space Odyssey, whatever. An interactive film, a film in VR, how would that be different to you?
Well, I don't think the degree of interactivity is probably a lot different from a game. You know, you can go to Disneyland, look at those 3D rides they have. You have some autonomy, but it's not complete. You know, considering haptics is kind of a ways off, you got to work around that. So it's all about defining what you let the user actually do. I actually have no idea.
Okay,
we'll find
I
out.
heard a mutter from the audience. It was really accurate. Nobody said it was interactive, so I'm just asking.
Yeah, so my vision for it is that I don't think it has to be.
Okay.
I mean, for me, I think the difference between a game and a movie is in your, are you passive or are you active? And I think they're both valid experiences, but for me, when I watch a movie, I want to be absorbed into the story world. I don't want to be an active participant. I want the director and the writer and the artist that make the film to guide me through that experience where I don't have to take an action. So for me, I'm thinking of it as very much an analog to filmmaking today, but where you're actually immersed in the story world. And for me, what's exciting about that is that there's all these conventions that filmmakers use, and those conventions haven't been established in VR, and they're going to be different. They're going to be subtly different. And I've got some ideas because I've been testing all the demos, but that's really the exciting part about working on a VR film, is that you get to define what those conventions become.
Well said.
Two questions, sort of. Have you written a script, and is your idea that somebody's an observer going along in the story?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. We have written a script. To what Paul and I were talking about earlier, Pixar's convention when they're doing shorts is they write 3 scripts. So we're going to write 2 more and then decide which one's the strongest. And in filmmaking, normally you sort of, the viewer is kind of a ghost. They're kind of floating around watching the scene from a disembodied perspective. And I think that will probably be the same with VR films, in that you're sort of a ghost in a scene, like the scene in The Godfather where Michael Corleone has to assassinate someone for the first time. How exciting would it be to be sort of an invisible third person in that room, and you could see that he's coming out of the bathroom with the gun, but the characters don't, and you can't participate or act, but you have that information that the characters in the scene don't have. And that's the kind of, but I think a POV does play a role. I mean, how interesting would it be, most movies use POVs very sparingly, but with VR, you can use a POV and you can actually see the body of the character, which would be a very powerful tool, I think.
I was just talking to a couple people earlier about basically the same thing, with the idea that if you imagine like a 3D holodeck movie theater where everyone's sitting around, half the audience can see the killer before the other half, so you see the audience react way before you see the killer. Like, why are they screaming? I don't get it.
They'll probably change the pacing. You'll need about 3 times more screaming.
Yeah,
some people will get slower. So.
It would be an interesting idea where you can see a movie 4 or 5 times, and each time it's a different movie.
Exactly. You can you know to look out for the thing the second time.
Yeah, or if you go in that room with the other character and see what they're doing in there for real this time, because last time it wasn't quite clear.
And with the screen, it brings up another interesting dimension, which is how to use audio to cue the audience where to look. Because you can position them relative like where their body is facing, but they'll still have complete control with where their head goes. But as a director, you still want to suggest where their gaze ought to go, and I think audio will play a big role in that.
Which brings up our question for you. Does anyone have a dummy head microphone?
dummy head microphone.
It's the one where you have a solid head with two. Yeah. That might be
audio.
I don't have here. I have in Europe.
You got one?
Two questions.
Okay, sorry.
Is it gonna be all CG computer graphics based or live action or mixed?
Yeah, so
the
I-
second question is, how do you deal with the focus
Ah.
field of that?
Stylization.
And convergence.
So there's a couple questions there. One is it going to be all in a 3D environment? Will it be live action? There's a company in Palo Alto that's doing live action recording. There's a couple companies that are trying to do spherical stereoscopic recording. The problem is that's always from a fixed perspective. It's like a head on a stick that swivels. And I think one of the keys to not being nauseated and disoriented is being able to move your head, even if it's subtly, to get that shift in perspective. So to do that, I think it's possible to do with live action recording. I think you'd have to do it something like with a planoptic camera, kind of like how the Lytro works. But right now, there's nothing that can record light field in a spherical array, which would be awesome. If anyone who's doing or has an interest in doing that, I think that'd be a huge opportunity.
There's a company in England that does stills for movies to take they use like 120 SLRs to take a single shot. It seems to me like it shouldn't be that much more difficult to take 24 shots in a second and do a 2-minute first.
Even on the Matrix sequels, the universal capture system for those Agent Smiths, that was 21 terabytes of data for one shot.
But that was
And-
10 years ago too.
But even now, your video memory's 4 gigs, 8 gigs. I mean,
I think
it's what
that
to do
gets-
with all the stored data.
You
So,
have to rig your camera.
so I personally, I'm a fan of stylization to work within what's possible. But as the video memory increases and such, yeah. Like for instance, that NVIDIA moving head, you just get one head.
Yeah.
Right now, we'll see. We'll get a couple more, but one day.
Yeah, so for us, I think we're going to approach it as doing all the rendering in the game engine, so you can get real-time rendering from multiple perspectives, and we'll probably take a very stylized approach. There's a couple of demos, I don't know if you've seen them, that have done scenes from Miyazaki films, which are beautiful. There's Totoro's sort of bus stop scene, and then a scene from Spirited Away in the boiler room. I think that's kind of the direction we'll go in, because it can give you you don't get stuck in that uncanny valley.
Yep. And the pacing also of the Miyazaki film gives the viewer more time to kind of enjoy the beauty, as opposed to cut, moving along. So those demos are pretty inspirational.
Well, we don't want to take all the time. One more question? Or?
Well, I have a comment. It's just that, are you familiar with lynda.com, LYNDA.com?
Yes.
They have a variety of tutorials there on Unity, shaders, programming, and so forth that you haven't looked at.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll do that. Thanks, guys.